Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's presentation. I'm excited to have you here. Today, we'll be exploring the fascinating topic of industrial organization, or IO, and the structure conduct performance approach. We'll start by understanding what these concepts are and how they relate to market analysis. Over the next few slides, we'll cover the key ideas, their applications, and their importance in economic analysis. So let's get started and dive into this interesting subject together. Industrial organization, or IO, is a fascinating area of economics that looks at how firms and entire industries operate. It's about understanding how companies compete with each other and how their actions influence the overall performance of markets. Essentially, it helps us see the bigger picture of how markets function and how consumers benefit from that competition. What makes IO particularly interesting is that it bridges two important areas. On one side, it connects microeconomic theory, so the detailed behavior of individual firms and markets. On the other side, it ties into public policy, including regulations, competition laws, and antitrust policies. This connection is crucial because it helps policymakers craft effective rules that promote fair competition and protect consumers. So, in the broader context of this presentation, understanding IO gives us a clearer picture of the economic landscape and the role of regulation in maintaining healthy markets. Economists have actually developed a specialized area of economic analysis called industrial organization. This field focuses on understanding how the ** structure of a market **, things like the number of firms, how they compete, and the barriers to entry, affects the ** performance of firms within that market. Essentially, it helps us see the link between how a market is built and how well the firms operate within it. This is important because it allows us to analyze different market environments and predict how firms might behave, which ties directly into the overall theme of understanding market dynamics and their impact on economic outcomes. Let's dive into the objectives of industrial organization. First, understanding market structures is fundamental. This includes concepts like monopoly, oligopoly, and perfect competition. Recognizing these structures helps us see how markets operate and how firms behave within them. Second, we analyze firm conduct, which covers pricing strategies, product decisions, advertising efforts, and mergers. These actions shape market dynamics and competitive behavior. Third, we assess market performance, focusing on aspects like efficiency, profitability, and innovation. These measurements tell us how well a market is functioning and benefiting consumers. Lastly, the goal is to design policies that promote fair competition and protect consumer welfare. By doing so, we ensure markets remain dynamic, fair, and beneficial for everyone involved. All these points connect to the broader theme of understanding and improving how markets work. It was developed by economists of the Harvard School of Thought in the 1950s, notably Edward S. Mason and Joe S. Bain. This approach, known as the structure conduct performance model, provides a framework for analyzing markets. The idea is that the structure of an industry, like the number of firms, market entry barriers, and product differentiation, shapes how companies behave or conduct themselves. That conduct includes pricing strategies, advertising, R&D, and other competitive behaviors. And ultimately, this conduct influences the overall performance of the industry, such as efficiency, profitability, and consumer welfare. Understanding this chain helps us see how market features affect economic outcomes, which is a core theme of this presentation. Let's explore the three key elements that public policy can focus on when it comes to markets: structure, conduct, and performance. Today, I want to focus on market structure, which essentially describes the conditions and characteristics that define a particular market type. When economists analyze market structure, they look at several important factors. First, the number and size distribution of firms. That is, how many firms are operating in the market and how large or small they are relative to each other. Next, they consider the extent of product differentiation, which refers to how similar or different the products are that firms sell. Then, there's the effectiveness of barriers to entry, how easily new firms can enter the market and compete. Finally, they look at the degree of vertical integration within the industry, meaning how much the production process is controlled from the raw materials to the final product. To put this into perspective, think about an industry like telecommunications. Typically, you'll find a few large firms dominating the market, which is characteristic of an oligopoly. These factors, number of firms, product differentiation, barriers to entry, and vertical integration, are all crucial in understanding the market structure. Recognizing these elements helps us see how the market operates and guides us in shaping policies that promote competition and efficiency. Let's take a closer look at market structures. Essentially, this refers to how different markets are organized based on the number of sellers, the nature of competition, and how much control they have over prices. Understanding these structures helps us see how firms operate and compete within the economy. At one end, we have perfect competition, where many small firms sell identical products, and no single company can influence the market price. This creates a highly competitive environment that benefits consumers with lower prices and choices. Moving towards the other end, we have monopoly, where a single firm dominates the entire market. This gives the firm significant control over prices and supply, which can lead to less competition and potentially higher prices for consumers. Then there are other structures like monopolistic competition, which features many firms selling similar but not identical products, and oligopoly, where a few large firms dominate the market. Each of these structures impacts how firms strategize and how consumers are affected. Overall, understanding market structures helps us grasp why markets behave the way they do and how different competitive environments influence economic outcomes. It's a key piece of the larger puzzle we're exploring in this presentation. Now, let's talk about conduct. Conduct refers to the behaviors, policies, and strategies that firms in an industry use to compete and operate. When economists analyze conduct, they're really looking at how these firms behave and the choices they make that influence the market. Specifically, they consider strategies related to pricing, production, promotion, and distribution. These are the key areas where firms can differentiate themselves or coordinate with others. For example, in an oligopoly, firms might collude to set high prices, which can be beneficial for them but might not be ideal for consumers. This kind of behavior is a classic case of conduct impacting the market landscape. Understanding conduct helps us see how firms interact and compete, which ultimately shapes the structure of the industry and how markets function overall. When we talk about performance in an industry, we're really referring to the economic outcomes that come from the way the market is structured and how firms behave within that structure. To get a clear picture of an industry's performance, economists look at several key aspects. First is allocation efficiency, which is about how well resources are distributed to produce the goods and services that people value most. Then there's production efficiency, meaning how effectively firms turn inputs into outputs with minimal waste. We also consider equity, which relates to the fairness of the distribution of wealth and resources within the industry. And finally, technological advancement, which indicates how innovation and new technologies improve productivity and competitiveness over time. All these factors together help us understand whether an industry is truly performing well, or if there are areas where improvements can be made. It's about seeing the bigger picture of how market structure and firm conduct influence the overall economic outcomes we observe. Presented by Vinod Goswami, GoswamiV505@gmail.com. Thank you so much for your time and attention. I truly appreciate your engagement throughout this presentation. If you have any questions or want to discuss further, please feel free to reach out. Once again, thank you for being such a great audience.